Going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Now today, hey, we got the legend himself, the man Jarrod Kimber. Firstly, original link in the description. I'm sure everyone knows who he is and has seen his channel, but if you haven't, go and show the man some love. We've got the fake IPL, believe it or not, cricket's long history. And look, I don't think I was taught this word in English school, but grifting. Yeah, either one, we're going to move on. But hey, if you guys are new, subscribe. If you also don't know what this is about, actually, I'm just going to show the video. Let's get into it. Come on. This is a good video. This is going to be a big
did
video.
Something remarkable. He managed to get Russians to watch cricket. Men drinking in pubs across Tiva, Vorozhva, and Moscow. I don't know, other than Moscow, how you pronounce any of those places. But places in Russia were following the Indian Premier League. Cricket in Russia is not big.
Yeah.
In 2019, the Ministry of Sport refused to recognize the game officially. That was eventually overturned, and the ICC allowed Russia membership to play for T20 internationals.
Nice.
They were suspended from that. There is a Moscow Cricket Academy, and many expats trying to keep the sport alive. It actually did once thrive there. Cricket was played in St. Petersburg as far back as the 1870s, and matches were regular until the Bolsheviks took over. They decided, for some unknown reason, that cricket was elitist. But the chances are that the blokes in the pubs weren't aware of any of this. They just wanted to gamble on something live in a good time zone for them. So FML provided them with the Indian Premier League. Just not the real one. But you can't really tell this story without telling the history of grifting and...
Hey, there you go. I got the word right. Grifting. Look at me go.
And money in cricket.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back to the start of the Test game.
This is the last knot. My dad told me to say this.
Here we go, the man, Jarrod Kimber.
Ted Pooley was supposed to be England's first ever wicketkeeper in the match that is now known as cricket's first ever Test. Instead, he was in a Christchurch jail.
Oh.
This weird, random occurrence happened because of an injury that kept him out of the tour matches in New Zealand. Because he couldn't play, Ted Pooley offered to umpire. The problem was that while he was in the middle controlling play, he also bet on the exact same game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could see what the problem was there. On top of that, Pooley won a lot of money for those bets.
Yeah.
And so the local bookmaker decided that because of this, he shouldn't be paid out. Pooley was arrested for attacking the bookmaker.
Damn.
And this is not a one-off story, it's one of thousands in cricket. At the early part, gambling on cricket was just a huge part of the game. So much so that when it moved from a street and park pastime to a...
Hey, just last pause of the video, but I can, guarantee right now, well, not guarantee, but everyone watching right now, comment down below if you have ever gambled money or essentially just donated money to these sports betting companies. Hey, I'm guilty. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've never, chucked on some money for some games and players and certain stuff. We're not going to get into it, but... I'm sure, I feel like now, especially with how accessible it is, anyone can just chuck on this guy to make 10 runs, or him to make a 50, or this team to win this, that. So many options for everyone to just give money to these bookmakers, huh?
Professional sport, the laws were written around gambling. Cricket's original rules were part of an oral tradition, but from 1744, they started to become codified and then eventually written down as laws. And at that point, there were no major cricket organisations, and the Hambledon Cricket Club was the main cricket venue in the world. And in no other way was Hambledon a big deal to anyone. It's not in London, it's not in Manchester, it's not in Birmingham, it's not even on a coast. And in the days before cars, it's not even that close to any of those things.
Where is it?
It's just a small village in the south of England.
Portsmouth?
But the games got big there because of the amount of gambling that they allowed in.
Brother.
And what ended up in being...
Bro, it's near Portsmouth. That is never a good sign. It's near a place called Soberton. Yeah, no, this place is not sober. I'm telling you that right now.
Non-stop festival of elite street.
No, how is this possible? There is a Hambledon vineyard, for wine and drinking. And then there's a road up here called Soberton. That doesn't make sense.
Betting and watching cricket. And the laws of our game were shaped by this sporting, old-timey, posh Las Vegas. Obviously, when it came to the laws, the players were involved. Like when Thomas White used a bat the size of the wicket. Obviously, you had to change the laws at that point. But the model of Hambledon to make money was to get maximum revenue from each match. That meant that the laws and the bookmakers had to kind of form a partnership. And when it comes to money in cricket, we often gloss over these things from the early part of the game's history. We pretend that people played for the love of the sport. But there was always a business around cricket. We just kind of ignored it for a long period of time. Even the early cricket heroes, the amateurs, who loved the game so much that they didn't want to be paid for it, even they were all about money. Unlike other sports, there was no split between the two. There wasn't an amateur competition and a professional competition. Amateurs and professionals would play together. The difference is that the professionals were paid as a job and the amateurs were not. Except many of them were actually paid, often more than the professionals, especially on tours. W.G. Grace was by far the best paid player in cricket. As he should have been, because he's like, what, a mix between Roger...
Hold on, I'm reading. There are many rumours of him betting on games he was involved with. Yeah. So this is how this is how the amateurs made their money back in the day. They said, mate, to be honest, I don't give it I don't care about the result. I'm just going to throw on, 100 for us to lose. And ching ching, that was times 10. Baby, put that $1,000 in my pocket.
Roger Federer,
I can't blame
Jordan,
him,
and Serena
unfortunately,
Williams.
back in the day.
But he was also, to use a phrase of its era, a shamateur. The entire history of cricket is loaded with incredible stories about money. The first time what you would deem as an official Australian team toured England, it was part of a co-op, a collective, so they could all make money. And yet, the sport tries to portray itself as the sport, literally. But things like the Hambledon Haven, the Oval putting gates up, and the IPL renaming a 6 for commercial reasons have always existed. Cricket has always been about money. LinkedIn is part of my online writing course because there are so many cricketers and coaches that are on there. But even outside of that...
Okay, hey, shout out to the sponsor, I guess. We're just going to move on past... Oh boy, it's a long sponsor. All right, moving on. You're all welcome. Hey, shout out. Money.
We currently call Efimov's creation the fake IPL, but it really should be known as the Mollypaw Premier League in honor of the village that hosted it. And that term, village, obviously has negative connotations in cricket. To refer to someone's game as village is an insult. There's no getting around it though. The Mollypaw Premier League, or let's just go with MPL, was certainly very village. Woo. In proper cricket, umpires call wides based on guidelines marked between the crease. It really helps umpires make less of a judgment call. In the MPL, they had little orange cones on the field. Why they didn't use paint, we will never know. There's no way any real league would ever have something like this on the ground. Not only are they clearly trip hazards, they could also stop the ball from travelling further.
That's what I'm saying!
And you can see this on some of the footage from the MPL that we know is part of the racket. It does show just how random...
Hold on, we're reading the names. The Chennai Fighters... versus the... yeah, we're not going to read that.
Cricket is. Like, there is a fielder directly behind the wicketkeeper, where he's supposed to be at slip. But his actual position is basically back
He's
slip.
at leg slip!
You do see this in, like, children's matches, when the kids struggle to stop the balls with the gloves on, or you might see it all the way back on the boundary if you're bowling very short.
He's got a backstop!
The bowler is certainly not doing those things. And the fielder is supposed to be at slip. And at this pace, the only way a delivery would make it to slip on the full would be if the batter picked it up and threw it back there. It's quite clear that this fielder just wanted to hide. And good on him. We've all done it. Then you have a look at the keeper, who doesn't have pads on. Now, some modern players do use shin guards under their trousers to give them more flexibility. That doesn't appear to be the case here. Also, the technique of the keeper is
good ball!
not good. He doesn't bend at the knees to start on the ground. Instead, he's bent over with his hands near his hips. This is how people keep when they've never played with a real...
Bro, if anyone has ever wicket kept before and has stanced like this, bro, you stand there for 20 overs like this, your back is going to break in two.
A cricket ball before. He also doesn't move as the ball comes down. He's a little bit like a glitching computer game character stuck in the same spot. If the ball is to go down leg side, the slip backstop is just as likely to stop it as he is. But he's also not at the stumps. But neither is he a long way back. I think he can't stand at the stumps because he has no idea how to.
Yeah.
But no professional would ever stand in this no man's land.
No.
The bowler is clearly not great either.
Hey,
His run-up
it was a
is
good
5
ball. It was
paces,
a decent.
which is on the low side for a seamer.
It was a
He
decent
starts
ball.
wide, immediately comes in towards the stump, and then he goes wide again. He's bowling slow medium pace, and looks like this is the first time he's ever dealt with running past a proper umpire before.
Yeah.
Yeah, his balls do skid off the pitch a little bit, and that's probably because they are bowling on matting. Pakistan and South Africa use matting pitches for their internationals for a very, very long time, but eventually both moved to turf wickets. And in the last 50 years, I can't think of any international matches that have been played on them. That's not to say that they've disappeared entirely.
Bro, is that sand? Like, if someone bowls a Yorker, the ball's just going to get stuck in the fucking ground.
Some associate nations have had to use AstroTurf pitches, especially for the women's game. But almost all cricket that we watch is on real turf.
Yeah.
And it has been for a very long time. And you know what else is unlikely? Having a bunch of balls out on the ground. In baseball, this would make sense, although it's doubtful they'd ever be in a pile near the pitcher's feet. But in cricket, where you use one ball for the entire game, unless you lose it or break it, why would you need a collection of balls as a very obvious trip hazard right by the bowler? There is also the very nice touch that players wear specially made coloured cricket clothing, but still have white pads on. If you were going to hire a bunch of enthusiastic but essentially club cricketing farmers to fake your league, at least pony up for a few more dollars for coloured pads. I think my favourite moment is when the ball is lofted in the air. Always a moment of great intensity in a cricket match. Oh, he skied that.
Catch him!
Will it go for 6?
Catch
Be caught.
him!
Land safe.
Oh.
You often see the tension on the faces of the batters and the bowlers. But from our MPL friends, you see a gentle walk in the park from one end to the other.
Yeah.
And then the ball gets softly passed back to the bowler. Did it bounce? Was it dropped? We will never know. The MPL is a whodunit, on and off the field. But on betting, I want to go back.
Wait, so this is the only camera view they have? You don't see where the ball goes. You just see the man absolutely try and smack the shit out of it.
Back to
Bro, that is
1958,
insane.
The Australian opener Sid Barnes decided to back himself at Lord's. Literally. He placed a bet on the fact that he would make 100 in that test.
Oh, nice.
And then he went out and he did it.
Yeah.
Over 30 years later at Headingley, England were getting crushed by Australia, and the bookmakers at the ground offered the comedy odds of 500 to 1.
Oof.
2 Australian players, Dennis Lilly and Rod Marsh, put on what they called a joke bet of £15. This was the 905th Test match. In the previous 904, only once had a team overcome a follow-on. That was in the 1800s. But that is what, of course, England would go on to do at Headingley. At that point, it was most probably the biggest comeback in Test cricket history. That test has a movie and a book about it. And the bet is often laughed off as just Aussies being Aussies. Yeah, mate, just having a bit of a bet. No drama. It is worth noting that while most people think of it that way, England's Graham Dilley, who made a handy 50 down the order as Ian Botham was
Shot! It's my type of shot!
The bet just put an element of doubt in my mind, even though I knew nothing dodgy had happened. For the record, Lilly took 3 wickets in a poor bowling display and was the 3rd top scorer with the bat. So make of that what you will. But at that time, and also in 1948, there's no doubt that the bets were just seen as having a bit of fun.
Oh.
And there are certainly many other stories of players making bets in cricket in their own games, on their own performance. Especially as for so long and in so many different countries, bookmakers were inside the ground.
Okay.
But there's also been a constant dark side with that sort of thing. William Lambert was an incredible batter and the 2nd biggest star in the game. And in 1817, he was the first.
Hey, let's be honest right now. If you guys are bowling and you see this man up the other end, what is the first ball you're bowling? In my opinion, I'm bowling a straight head-hunting bouncer, right? I'm not even going to lie.
200s in a
I don't know why, I
match.
just get that feeling.
The same year, he was found guilty of match fixing.
Damn.
This happened at Lord's. And it was really after Headingley in 1981 that betting on cricket went from a laugh to outright corruption.
Yeah, you don't do
Salim Malik, Hansi Cronje, and Mohammad Azharuddin were all suspended for match-fixing related issues. And these were not just respected senior players, but had been captains of their national sides at times. And from that match-fixing cluster, the cloud never really went away. It probably peaked in 2010 when an English tabloid caught Mohammad Asif, Mohammad Amir, and their Pakistani captain Salman Butt. That spot fixing at Lord's was 193 years after William Lambert. I think it's fairly naive to believe not much went on in between. These days, corruption in cricket is much more confusing because it's such an international
Bro, the
sport.
man's sell man butt. I mean, he got sentenced 30 months in jail. Did any of them even do 1 day in jail? Surely not. I don't know. I don't have no memory of this. I'm not even gonna lie.
Was 16 way before he was caught, but they are not Interpol and working out how to prove.
Yo, why is this man placed too many bets that he's in a sling?
I have met people who believe that at the 2007 World Cup in the West Indies, Salman Butt was already on the take.
Real.
But think about that. He is in the West Indies, and he's a Pakistani player. He was probably using international phones, maybe US phones, English phones, and Indian phones. If you also add up all the islands he went through in the West Indies, we're now talking about, what, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 jurisdictions? It's very hard to catch these people. And while most cricket nations are obviously Commonwealth members, and traditionally certainly so, these countries are not that much alike. Gambling is illegal in many cricket nations. Yet in Melbourne, the home of the first test, there is a holiday for a horse race. So proud of my people. And
yeah, hey, living in Melbourne and like the Melbourne Cup, I'm not a horse race fan. I'm just going to state that right here. I think it's the worst sport ever created. Have I put money on horses? Unfortunately, yes. That is just, when you have too many beers, you place a bit of money on the horses, on the... Look, we're not going to get into it, but... yeah, I agree. Melbourne Cup, I wish it could go, but it's one of the longest traditions. I hate it. What can you do?
Yet at the same time, betting is obviously mostly illegal across the subcontinent.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka regulated theirs in 2010, though it should be said that it seemed to be fairly open within the country before that. But India, Bangladesh and Pakistan all don't allow betting on cricket. Nepal is the same. Afghanistan has interesting rules when it comes to online gambling, which I don't quite understand. But I think we can safely say that the Taliban is probably not going to be pro-gambling on sport. But the problem is, even if you have a law against it, you won't actually stop people from betting. Prohibition does not work when it comes to gambling. It has always been an open joke that most US sports fans betted for generations, despite not being legally able to do it in the vast majority of the country. Sports fans, and certainly cricket ones, are going to gamble. No law is going to stop them.
Yeah, like, so I mean, who's going to stop me from sitting here next to my friend and saying, I bet you $20 that Australia will win this test match? Like that, even though it's not online, you're not giving it to a bookie. I guess it's still gambling, but I'd rather do that.
Built around betting while having this extensive illegal gambling system behind it. Even the legal betting companies are fed up with the illicit markets that are often controlled by organised crime. The legal entities help the ICC and cricket boards with irregular markets that could come from fixing, because they also don't want to be ripped off. And so all of this creates a bizarre situation where this sport grew on the back of gambling. And as it did, it meant that it found new locations in the world that didn't allow betting. And the combination of these two worlds seems to have created a near perfect sport for constant gambling corruption. I've mentioned this before, but there's a great episode of Aaron Sorkin's Sports Night that discusses a fictitious cricket event of a bowler taking all 10 wickets in an innings. Part of the running joke in the entire episode is that no one knows anything about cricket in America, but there is also this great visual gag, which is just a bunch of random images shown on a screen in a short period of time. Bowler, batter, fielder, crowd, and boundary, all juxtaposed like an Eisenstein montage. And think back to the cricket that you watch. Let's say a leg by that ends up going for a boundary. Think about what the screen will show you. Someone will get hit, and then the ball will be on the grass.
And then you see the umpire tap the leg, and he just swishes around the hand, and that's how you know it's
bowler will be
bias.
frustrated as two men
Jimmy
run past
Anderson,
in
he's
opposite
upset.
direction. The ball hits the rope, the crowd cheer, an umpire does sign language before standing on one leg, and two grown men then fist bump with gloves on.
Chris Gale,
Much of what we see on TV is a collection of images that only a cricket fan could make any sense of. The visual language of cricket is so bizarre. And even just a few years ago, cricket was almost exclusively a big TV production, wasn't it? Hugely expensive long lens cameras aiming down at the cricketers, with many other smaller cameras around the ground picking up the action. Then streaming happened. And with that came the ability for anyone with a stable internet connection and a camcorder to show their game to the world. It probably starts with first-class matches like the Sheffield Shield in Australia and county cricket in the UK. But soon, a lot of cricket had some kind of one-camera setup for streaming. What follows that is places like Cricket District, and so then club cricket starts to do it. So places like Cricket District start popping up, essentially showing clips from very funny club moments. We also see the European Cricket League, a tournament that live streams club matches from Europe.
Bro, no. We're going back to show this. What the living F was this shit?
European Cricket League.
Bro, look at this guy. Just walk to the stumps and take the bails off.
Live streams
Hey,
club
no! What are you doing?
matches from Europe to around the world. It wasn't that long ago that cricket used to look very professional when it was made by a big TV network.
Yeah.
And now it is increasingly one handycam and maybe a couple of other angles to follow the ball. Yes, the look of the MPL is bad. But in today's world, it doesn't stick out as much as it once would have. They had more than one camera, helmed by professionals, hired video graphics designers, and had a commentator, who was impersonating Harsha Bhogle, to tell the punters to bet and also what was happening in the game. When the ball was hit up, you'd get a sky shot and the umpire calling a 6. They ensured never to get too close to the players, lest the bettors work out that they were fake, which was probably unnecessary detail, but even still. There are still obvious things that make the footage to a cricket fan look very, very unconvincing. But to people watching that weren't, if you know nothing of the game, the players are out there wearing colours, there is a camera, graphics, the ball's moving around, and an upbeat man with a pleasant demeanour is calling the action. Clearly, that was enough.
Yeah.
And remember, when it comes to betting, people do wager on weird things, like the animated horse racing programs that are clearly fixed beforehand. This at least had humans and a camera angle that replicated what cricket looks like, or a good enough facsimile. But while we're talking about cricket on TV, let's talk about the person who kind of changed how it looked for us in the first place. There were two rich media moguls in Australia in the 1970s. One went on to conquer the entire media world, and his life is now fictionalized in a HBO drama called Succession. The other was Kerry Packer.
Oh!
These two men inherited sizable businesses from their fathers. But while Rupert Murdoch went large, Kerry Packer stayed at home and just dominated the Australian TV market.
Yeah.
But as powerful as Packer was, he still had to handle the local bureaucracy.
Hey, these are three legends. Oh, actually, I can't say I ever watched this show. I'm a bit too old for that one. But hey, Bananas in Pajamas, The Wiggles. This was my shit. These two shows growing up.
One of those regulations was to show a large percentage of Australian-made TV shows. It's actually now why there are so many popular Australian children's shows worldwide, like Bananas in Pajamas, The Wiggles, and Bluey. These are cheap to make and easy to produce in bulk. That's what Kerry Packer wanted. And as a huge cricket fan, he knew how many hours the game could take up on TV. So after trying to buy the rights legally and being rebuffed because he couldn't broadcast nationally and the boards also liked their deal with the ABC, he just started his own league, World Series Cricket. A completely made-for-TV product that was tweaked to make it sexier and, crucially, played in prime time rather than the middle of the day. Packer essentially bought the majority of Australia's best cricketers and then did the same with other teams like the West Indies. But he cherry-picked from the best players around the world, playing them huge amounts of money. Richard Austin was a struggling West Indian player in and out of the team. He would receive $74 for appearing in a test match, and he only played in 2 of them. Packer gave him a 2-year, $20,000 contract. Despite the fact that Packer loved cricket and did want to broadcast it, he didn't want to run the game. So Cricket Australia eventually gave him the TV rights to end the conflict, and Packer left the game in, I suppose, an official sense. Richard Austin, who I mentioned before, wasn't just paid by Packer though. He also received another payment of $100,000 to go on a tour. Sadly, that one was to play in apartheid South Africa on what is now called within cricket the Rebel Tours. Unofficial Australian, English, Sri Lankan and West Indies teams were sent over there as professional cricketers during the sporting bans. They were playing for a cricket-starved crowd.
Yo, this is my dad. I mean, move on, but Seymour Clarke, he has to be related to me. Okay, he averaged 25. That's not great. Bowling average of 35. Yeah, not great either. Very nice strike rate, though. A decent economy, I guess. Yeah, I wouldn't have paid him too much.
Because South Africa had been ostracised from the sport. Obviously, politically, what they were doing was horrendous. But these players were easy pickings, just as they had been for Packer, because they were paid terrible money. Cricket had good finances, but that money never trickled down, which allowed for the players to be bought off. See also match fixing. The entire thing would happen again with the unofficial Indian Cricket League, buying up many of the biggest names in cricket. And then a few years later, with a failed World Test League, the majority of cricketers had never been paid anywhere near their true worth, considering what the game actually made. meaning that they are almost constantly able to be bought. That's not quite the case with the NPL, which was not professional cricketers. But the NPL was supposed to run for a long time. The land had been leased for a year, and the scam was to last at least that long. There were agents in Russia and India working behind the scenes, and at the Indian end, it was looked after by a man who used to work in an electronics store who'd lost his money on a buffalo dairy business.
Damn.
There were farmers and unemployed people who were recruited as players, and they were paid around 400 rupees a day. And it would be unfair to say that they couldn't play cricket, but clearly they were of an incredibly low level. And we were seeing them after they were trained how to look like professional players, including proper techniques, and even the umpires had classes. A local farmer was offered more money than he'd ever make in a year from crops for the rental of his land, and they turned his field into a cricket ground. There was obviously fake crowd noise that was piped in on the PA system that they had bought. Messages on what was to happen next on the ground were sent to the umpires, who had walkie-talkies, just like in real life.
Nah. Low key, they're smart for this. This this is a scam, and obviously this is how they got people overseas to just pay money and to scam them or whatever. You know, it's not right. But hey, this is just like someone, you know, setting up a bloody just any other sort of scam. But it's kind of funny that they're actually doing. At least they're playing cricket. At least they're giving you a slice of enjoyment. At least it's not high quality cricket, I guess. But shit. At least you're not losing your money for nothing. You're losing your money to good people who probably need the money. So, in a way, I'll accept it for now.
Except this time they were directing the play to milk the gamblers. Here's the other weird thing. Even the people betting were trained. An online course to explain how to bet on cricket was made by the NPL founders. They did more work than Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams. After the first raid, 4 people were arrested, but many others have been named, and it's quite clear that this is an ongoing and very large investigation.
Damn, 4 people got arrested? Damn, I wonder how long you go to jail for something like this. I was low-key thinking in the back of my mind about setting up an Australian amateur Big Bash League. Shh, keep it on the low, but stuff that. If I'm going to get arrested,
the
not
original
anymore.
charges were for criminal conspiracy. Many people believe the Lord's press box looks like a UFO, but it was the helicopter that landed behind it that was more out of this world. Inside was Alan Stanford, a billionaire who claimed to be related to the Stanford University family.
Okay.
He'd splashed money all around the Caribbean and was even given a knighthood. He also did a similar thing to Kerry Packer, essentially creating a new cricket tournament, but this time with a little bit of assistance from the Cricket West Indies board. And like Packer, he wanted to sex cricket up with big money prizes and black bats. But the reason he was at Lord's was to confirm a partnership with the English Cricket Board for a match between them and his Stanford All-Stars. The winner would take home $20 million, which he showed in a big plastic box at Lord's.
20 million?
Sadly, the money in the box was fake.
Oh!
Twice. The imitation bills he showed were very similar to his own fraudulent wealth on the back of a massive Ponzi scheme.
Imagine you show fake money. That is sad.
Stanford is serving a 110-year sentence. That was an official.
What? Hold on, what? What?
Sadly, the money in the box was fake. Twice. The imitation bills he showed were very similar to his own fraudulent wealth on the back of a massive Ponzi scheme. Currently, Alan Stanford is serving a 110-year sentence. That was an official.
110 years. You can say goodbye.
League, though. But there's been unofficial ones as well, like the UVA T20 League that was going to have Tilkaratne Dilshan, Hafiz Maharouf, and Ajanta, your favourite Sri Lankan player.
Tilkaratne Dilshan was going to play in it. And just quietly, this logo is literally copyright because that is the Charlotte Hornets from the NBA. That is
all during lockdown. A host of major Sri Lankan companies were sponsoring as emails from Sri Lankan cricket officials were sent around promoting this event.
Yo!
The major problem really was that none of these players were involved. Oh, and also it wasn't in Sri Lanka.
Oh.
The police found this league in Mahali. The entire thing was a scam tournament with Indian players pretending to be Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
It was organised by a fixing and gambling syndicate who were as hard hit by COVID as everyone else was.
Yeah.
That happened in 2020, but just a few weeks ago there was also the
Big Bash Punjab T20. This sounds fun.
Punjab T20, a tournament played in Meerut. Some of India's best Ranji players were involved.
Real?
The games were live streamed on YouTube, and cricket fans around the world could watch and enjoy. Except, yeah, again, it was another scam. In this case, looks like from the same group who did the MPL. Police now suspect that there is a widespread criminal conspiracy across many different parts of India with these fake leagues attached to them. Cycling, athletics and baseball all had major scandals as people cheated to win. Again and again in cricket, we seem to cheat to lose. In other sports, the bettors just waged on them. In cricket, gamblers help build our game. Many still call it the gentleman's game, promoting their all-white clothes and the breaks for tea. But at its core, if you are paying attention, cricket has always been the grifter's game. What happened in Mollypur might not be the real IPL, but it is the true story of cricket.
Yo! Shout out to the great man, Jared Kimber. Go show him some love. Unreal video that he's put all this together. Man, it just gets you thinking, like, what are these people genuinely thinking? That, like the short term, yeah, you might have this league for 6 months, you might make more money than you've ever made in quick term, but you have to know some of the, like, it has to end eventually. You're not going to just get away with stealing people's money and fraud for your whole life. Like, it's just not how life works. People find out. Yeah, unreal. Unreal that how many leagues. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more. This won't be the last of it, no doubt. But if any of these leagues need to sign a marquee player, I'm available. Just make sure the league is at least somewhat legit, because I don't want to go to jail. Hey, that's going to cap it off. I hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see everyone in the next one.